Good evening, people of the web. This is Jason Wydrow, your host of OnlineStrategyPodcast.com. Okay, so it's been a few days since I posted a podcast, was doing a little bit of travel, and wasn't able to get to the studio. So I have a little bit of making up to do. So tonight I have a bit of a special episode on the subject of organic search engine optimization and the Google algorithm that we technically call it as being the brain behind, the decision making of how a website ranks in position and for a particular phrase or set of search words, search phrase. So this is a challenging topic for a lot of developers and a lot of business owners because it's not quite realized how robust, to use a technical word, kind of, robust meaning how detail-oriented, how savvy, how smart, how intelligent the Google algorithm really is. And I can only classify it as artificial intelligence. Basically, it's almost like, it has a very high capacity of thought process, I guess you could say. It thinks, in a way. It calculates and determines data based on tons and tons of factors, at least 200 or more factors that are taken into account when deciding to show what website appears on the search results by what was typed in and searched for. And I'm referring to organic search phrases and organic search results. I'm not talking about paid advertising or pay-per-click advertising or anything else. So this is an interesting thing because this is the way I'm really trying to break this down. There's all these different scenarios that happen, okay? A site's ranking really well, it's positioned well, and let's say I'm going to make something up. Where to buy oranges in Orange County, for example. Let's just make something fun up. Where to buy oranges in Orange County, and, let's just say that's what someone searches, and that's what someone's going to be looking for. Now, let's say your site was showing up perfectly well 24 hours ago, and the past 7 weeks it was showing up perfectly well, and all of a sudden, the next day, the same exact search phrase that you've been dominating the search engine with, all of a sudden you can't find your site, and maybe you're 3 or 7 or 10 pages buried back in the positioning. So what happened? What happened? What went wrong? Or maybe not what went wrong, but what naturally occurred. So I can't answer this question because I can't honestly answer the question. I can describe logical scenarios. I can describe what I believed happened based on some preliminary research, some analysis, some data crunching, and some other things like that. I can come to pretty substantial conclusions with pretty good evidence and support. But I can't guarantee it. I can't put that stamp on it. And that's what we're dealing with here. Okay? We're dealing with a very intricate machine that we don't have answers to because we're not developing that machine. And the way that this machine is developed is done also in such a way that no one person has all of the information as to exactly how it thinks and again, I'm referring to the machine, the Google algorithm. Okay? That's what I'm referring to. Think of it like this, and this is a really interesting analogy, and it may not make any sense to you, but I'm going to try to explain it in such a way where it does make sense. So, have you ever gone fishing before? Particularly fly fishing, or a more fishing that requires a more of an artificial, in other words, not bait fishing, but an artificial fishing, where you're using something, a man-made tool or a man-made thing that represents a fish that is going to attract a fish. Okay? So what I see a lot of on Google, particularly with search engine service providers, particularly organic search engine service providers, is lots of ways to get ranked higher. Do this and get you pushed up in Google, or do that, get pushed up in Google, and do this and this and this and this and that. And what a lot of these strategies are actual artificial strategies that are designed to emulate a natural effect. For example, okay, fine. So I'll use one. I'll use citations. Okay, citations. These, in search engine terms, these are, mentions of your product, your service, or your website name without a link, but a mention of it. So let's say my company's name is ABC Company, and I hire a company to help give me citations, and they put 100 citations out over a 3-day period. There's all different kinds of sites are submitted to it. Now my company name is listed on 100 sites out on the internet, scattered about, random websites that allow citations, and somehow you could post to them, whatever. Now this is artificial, right? This is artificial. Now the question is Google going to take the bait? Is Google going to see this bait, these citations, and go, okay, wait a minute. Now, did someone manually do this? How was this created? Well, think about it like this. What if I told you that I could track every single one of those posts, determine exactly what time those posts, those citations appeared in the search engine, and let's say they all showed up within a 24-hour period of time. Now, that's a pretty significant boost of information to be blasted out, and to all of a sudden, now your site has artificially 100 people talking about it all over the web. Now, this is possible, humanly possible, right? And it does happen. A really big article gets published, or some viral thing gets published, and all of a sudden this name is just scattered all over the internet, right? True? True enough, fair enough, right? But consider that if, you kind of have to look at it like this. We're all familiar from back in the web in the 90s, and even before that, the web become a home item, before the internet was a household thing, that we had, get-rich-quick schemes all over the place, make $1,000 overnight, and this and this and that, all these schemes, right? Well, unfortunately, a lot of these SEO tactics are like gambling. They're like hit or miss. There's no guarantee it's going to work. There's no absolute in it. And the reasons for that are obvious because, if you don't know the machine and you don't know exactly what the machine's doing and exactly how it's calculating on all these different scenarios, then how can you possibly understand if you're going to get an absolute result or not? So as a business owner, you kind of have to use common sense and be a little bit intelligent about how technology savvy the Google algorithm really is. We're not talking about like a thing that hasn't already. Just imagine this. Imagine all the tried and true tactics, search engine optimization tactics from the late, 90s up through the 2000s, mid 2000s, and all the way forward to present day. All these different random scenarios and tactics that were used. Tactics, right? Like hiding text on the page with a different color, or duplicating title tags, that title metadata, at the header, trying to find these tricky ways, thinking like, oh yeah, the search engine who created these, the ability to crawl these things hasn't thought of how it could be manipulated. Just like a casino wouldn't foresee how someone could cheat the casino out. I'm not going to use that as an analogy because obviously it's not a casino. It's a different scenario, but it's almost as risky sometimes, when you're dealing with organic search engine optimization. It's almost as risky. But just think of, there are teams and teams and teams and teams of developers who designed how the Google search engine works, how it pulls up results, and being the developers and the creators of this brain, believe me, there's some foresight and forward thinking as to how it can be defeated. That's all part of the development process. So it's like, if you think for a second that there's some idea like, oh yeah, I can do this and I can, quote, cheat the search engine, or I've got an idea that I'm going to trick it and it'll work like this and that. Baloney. Baloney. Okay? I'll admit, I've seen it happen before. And there have been loopholes. There have been things that have happened, right? There were tricks, and there are tricks, and there are things you can do. But it's like, and you also have to weigh the risk factor. Is it really worth it? Is it really worth invest your time and money to try to find some loophole and some way to get your site ranked, and all of a sudden to find out that you've been possibly flagged or worse yet, completely removed from the Google index and begging to come back? Nobody wants to be in that position. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So, and the part that really throws me off is that there's this get rich quick scheme notion that that's how a search engine works. Like you can just, cheat it and manipulate it, and then you get your site up to the top ranks. But why not just follow some of the standard guidelines? Why not play by the rules? Why not compete and everyone competes on the same playing field? Because it makes a fair game then. And then everyone can actually, kind of have an opportunity and a chance. There's so many tactics and things you can do that are perfectly white hat friendly. If you don't know what that means, it means just following the Google guidelines, the webmaster guidelines and things that Google puts forth and says, hey, we don't like when you do this. If you do this, this might happen. If you do that, that might happen. It's like, it's pretty clear and simple. And again, if you think for a second you're going to cheat Google or the algorithm or outthink it somehow, seriously, reconsider your plan. Reconsider reading the entire webmaster guidelines and following as closely as you can to the T. And yes, there's a tremendous amount of room for question and room for uncertainty and not quite specific enough on a lot of things. And trust me, it's designed that way. It's designed that way because it's part of the game. That's part of the challenge. And that's part of what having awesome organic search engine results is all about. It's about, the challenge, the game, having a plan, a strategy, but within the boundaries of the guidelines. So that's pretty much all I have tonight. And, it's kind of an emotional topic for me because I've seen I deal with so many different types of businesses and clients that have had so much hit or miss success with search engine optimization. And I'll have a client come to me or a new customer come to me and say they have this great idea. This is how they're going to rank in the search engine. They're going to have this strategy and this and that and this. And they're asking me to answer the question, is this going to get me the result I want? And I have to restrain myself and say, I can't answer that question. Although I really want to dig because I know, some avenues I could take. I know what might work, what might not. But I cannot get too, guarantee on it. I just can't, I can't, it wouldn't be honest, So anyway, if you're a business owner, just do your best to play within the playing field, play by the rules when it comes to using Google as a tool to improve your site's, appearance in the search engines. Because my personal complete opinion from observation and experience that it will pay in the long run for you to do those things. And again, it's like, the get rich quick scheme. It's like how honest and ethical typically is a get rich quick scheme, It's borderline stealing sometimes, some of these things or these tactics. So think of it the same way as opposed to a long-term plan to build a business. Do it honestly, do it effectively, do it creatively, and have all the things that you would want to have in a business, but be able to build it from the ground up, with, playing by some standard and by some rule. In other words, not promoting a product or service that you can't sell or you don't have, or it's not really what it is, you know what I'm saying. So anyhow, well, that's all I have for you tonight. I went a bit off on a tangent there about business stuff, but I wanted to get everything crammed into this podcast because it's a really interesting topic and it's really important. But I kind of had to vent a little bit because I'm dealing with a lot of projects right now, having a lot of requests for organic optimization, and I am applying, tried and true methods that have worked for previous clients to help them naturally rank higher without jeopardizing their online presence. So that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you for listening in. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a nice night. Online Strategy Podcast is brought to you by OnlineStrategyPodcast.com, W3Developing.com, and JasonWydro.com.